I was rejected and left to die alone with the Alpha's child inside me. But the Lycan King claimed me and claimed the child as his own. Now the Alpha wants war. And one day my son will have to choose between the Alpha who gave him life and the Lycan King who gave him a future. Before we begin, I'd love to know, where in the world are you listening from? Drop it in the comments. I would be waiting to reply in the comments. Now let's begin. Chapter 1, The Rejection. The night of the full moon was supposed to be the happiest of her life. Instead, it became the night Karen lost everything. She stood in the center of the Blackthorn Pack's stone courtyard, the moon glowing above her like a silver judge. Wolves gathered in a wide circle, their whispers cutting sharper than the cold wind. Every eye fixed on her, waiting to see if their Alpha would claim her, bind her as his fated mate, and stand at her side forever. Her hands trembled against the thin fabric of her ceremonial dress. Not from the chill, but from the secret she carried, Rodolphe's child growing inside her. She thought tonight he would protect her, that he would shield both her and the tiny heartbeat beneath her ribs. But Rodolphe's golden eyes were hard. His jaw locked as though the words he was about to speak were carved from stone. "Karen," he said, his voice echoing through the courtyard. "I reject you as my mate." Gasps rippled through the pack. Karen's chest caved in as if claws had ripped straight through her ribs. Her breath hitched and the world blurred. "No, he can't, he knows I." Her lips parted, desperate. "Rattle, please." He cut her off with a growl that silenced even the crickets in the trees. "You are weak. You are unfit to stand beside me as Luna." Her knees threatened to buckle. She dug her nails into her palms until blood welled, forcing herself to stay upright in front of them all. Every instinct screamed at her to fall, to curl in on herself, but she refused to give them that satisfaction. The pack stared. Some eyes gleamed with cruel delight, others with pity, but none came forward. Radolf turned, his arm curling around the waist of Serena, the Alpha's chosen bride from the Silverfang pack. Her beauty shimmered under the moonlight, her smile smug and triumphant. "I will take Serena as my mate," Radolf declared. "Her family's alliance will strengthen our pack. That is what matters." The crowd erupted into approval. Wolves raised their fists, howling in support. Only a handful remained silent, but their silence meant nothing. Karen's throat burned. She wanted to scream that she carried his heir, that he had already chosen her in private nights of whispered promises and stolen touches. But she saw the warning in his eyes. If she spoke now, he would silence her in ways far crueler than rejection. "Radolf," she whispered, barely able to breathe. "You can't." He stepped closer, his presence suffocating. His hand shot out, gripping her arm so tightly she gasped. He leaned close enough that only she could hear. "You should have known your place," he hissed. "Do you think bearing my child makes you valuable? You are nothing, Karen. Nothing but a mistake I refuse to claim." Her eyes stung. She wanted to strike him, to claw at his face and show him the pain he'd carved into her, but her wolf whimpered inside her, weak and caged. Radolf released her with a shove, sending her stumbling back into the dirt. The pack laughed. The sound pierced deeper than any blade. Serena tilted her head, her voice syrupy sweet. "Poor little Omega. You really thought an Alpha like Radolf would waste his throne on you." Karen's vision blurred with tears. Her body shook, but her voice came out steady, even if it cracked at the edges. One day you'll regret this." The laughter only grew. Radolf raised his hand, and silence fell instantly. His command wrapped around every wolf like iron chains. "Listen well," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "From this night forward, Karen is no longer part of this pack. She is stripped of her place, her rights, her name, and as punishment for daring to think herself worthy of me." He paused. His golden eyes gleamed cold and merciless. "She will be cast into the cursed woods." A collective gasp echoed. Even the boldest wolves shifted uneasily. The cursed woods were death. No wolf survived a single night there. Rogues prowled in endless packs, and shadows of forgotten spirits tore through flesh and bone. Karen's heart stopped. He wouldn't. He couldn't. Her voice broke. Radolf, no. Please. Not there. Not while. Silence, he roared. His wolf surged beneath his skin, his aura pressing against her until her knees hit the stone. You are nothing to me. Nothing to this pack. Weak, unfit, unwanted. You will not speak again. Tears slid down her cheeks, hot and helpless. The tiny life inside her stirred, as if sensing her fear. She curled her hand protectively over her stomach, praying no one saw. But Serena did. Her smirk deepened, sharp as a knife. The guard stepped forward, their shadows swallowing her. She looked around desperately, at wolves she'd grown up beside, at faces she'd healed with her herbs, at children she had once carried on her hip. None moved. None spoke for her. Her heart shattered. She lifted her chin, forcing herself to look Radolf in the eyes one last time. I may be nothing to you, she said hoarsely, but the moon sees everything. She will remember. For the first time, his eyes flickered, annoyance, maybe fear, but he masked it quickly. He waved his hand in dismissal. Take her away. The guard seized her arms. Karen struggled, but their grip was iron. Her wolf cried out, but she was too weak to shift, too broken to fight. The pack watched as she was dragged toward the iron gates at the forest's edge. Some turned their backs, unwilling to see. Others leaned forward, hungry for the spectacle. Serena pressed herself against Radolf, her lips brushing his ear as they both smiled. The gates creaked open. Cold air from the cursed woods rushed out, thick with the stench of death and decay. The sound of distant growls slithered through the night. Karen's feet scraped against stone, her body trembling. She twisted, desperate, crying out over her shoulder. Radolf! But he had already turned away. The guard shoved her forward. She stumbled across the threshold, her hand scraping earth and rock as the gates slammed shut behind her. The howls of the pack rose behind the walls, celebrating their alpha's new union. Karen was left alone in the darkness, the cries of unseen beasts echoing all around her. She pressed a shaking hand to her stomach, whispering to the life inside her. I'll protect you, no matter what it takes. But even as she spoke, the sound of something massive moving between the trees made her blood run cold. The cursed woods had awakened, and Karen was its prey.
Chapter 2. Alone. The growl came first, low rumbling and far too close. Karen froze where she stood, the shadows of the cursed woods swallowing her whole. Her heart hammered against her ribs, one arm instinctively curling around her stomach. The child inside her shifted faintly, a reminder of the tiny life she had to protect at all costs. She forced herself to breathe, though each inhale scraped like glass. Survive. For the baby. Just survive the night. But the cursed woods didn't forgive trespassers. And Radolf had known that when he ordered her thrown here. The branches clawed at her skin as she stumbled forward. Every sound seemed louder here. The crack of twigs, the whisper of leaves, the hiss of unseen things moving. The air stank of rot and old blood. Her legs ached, her body raw from being shoved into the forest with nothing but her thin, ceremonial dress. Still, she pressed on. Her mind tried to replay the last hour, but every memory cut deeper than the last. Rodolphe's voice calling her weak, the laughter of the pack. Serena's smirk pressed against a shoulder. She stopped, clutching a tree trunk, her knees shaking. How could you do this to me? She whispered into the night, as if Radolf could hear her. Her voice cracked. You knew about our child. The silence that answered her was worse than any growl. A branch snapped to her left. Her breath hitched. She turned sharply, eyes darting between the shadows. Nothing. Only the dark stretch of trees, the silver smear of moonlight between their skeletal arms. Another snap. This time, behind her. Her wolf whimpered inside, too weak to rise, but still alert. She wasn't alone. Show yourself, she whispered, though her voice trembled. The woods answered with another growl, closer this time. Her pulse thundered. She broke into a run. Branches whipped across her arms. Roots tore at her bare feet. But she ran anyway. The forest seemed endless, every direction the same. The cold gnawed at her bones. And still the growls followed. She collapsed against a fallen log, gasping for breath. Her stomach twisted with cramps, fear tightening every muscle. She pressed a hand against it. "Show, little one. Please hold on." Her vision blurred as memory surged, unbidden. Rodolphe's hands once cradling her face in secret, his whispers promising forever. "You are mine, Karen. No one else will ever touch you." She had believed him. She had given him everything. Now the echo of his rejection slammed into her again, harder than the hunger gnawing at her insides. She pressed her forehead against the damp wood, tears spilling freely. "I was never enough for him," she whispered, the truth bitter on her tongue. But before grief could drown her, the growl came again, louder, guttural, vibrating through the earth beneath her hands. Karen jerked her head up. Two eyes glowed from the darkness, yellow and feral. The beast stepped forward, massive shoulders rippling with muscle, its maw dripping with saliva. This wasn't a rogue wolf, this thing was worse. Its scent was all wrong, twisted by rot and rage. A creature born from the curses that haunted these woods. Her blood ran cold. The beast lowered its head, lips peeling back to reveal jagged teeth. Karen's body screamed at her to run, but her legs refused to move. She forced herself upright, back pressed to the log, every breath sharp with panic. "Stay away," she whispered, though her voice shook. The beast lunged. She screamed and threw up her arms to shield her stomach, bracing for teeth and pain. But instead of being torn apart, a shock ripped through her body. Heat, wild and untamed, bursting from deep inside her chest. Light exploded, silver and violent, slamming outward in a wave. The beast howled as it was thrown back into the trees, crashing with a sickening thud. Karen staggered, staring at her trembling hands. Silver sparks still danced across her skin. Her wolf stirred faintly, stunned, whispering in awe, "Not me, not you, the child." Her breath came in ragged gasps. She looked down at her stomach, her palm pressing hard over the place where the light had begun. The baby had done that. Her knees gave out, and she sank to the ground. Fear and awe tangled inside her chest. "What are you?" she whispered to the life inside her. The forest was silent again, but it wasn't the calm of safety. It was the silence of something watching, something more than wolves or cursed beasts. Karen struggled to her feet, weak and shaking, and forced herself to keep moving. She couldn't stop here. She couldn't risk the beast returning. Each step was agony, but she held on to the thought of her child's sudden burst of power. It had saved her. For now. Her lips trembled as she whispered to the night, to the child, maybe even to the moon herself. "If you can protect me, then I swear I'll protect you. I don't care what it costs." She limped deeper into the cursed woods, unaware that far behind her, silver eyes gleamed in the shadows, watching.
Chapter 3, The Mark. The silence after the blast was heavy, broken only by Karen's ragged breaths. The beast hadn't killed her because something inside her had struck first. She pressed her shaking palms against the dirt, eyes wide, still seeing sparks fade from her skin. Her body was weak, but her womb burned with a strange warmth, as if her unborn child carried a heartbeat louder than her own. She whispered to the emptiness, That wasn't me." Karen staggered upright, her body trembling. She had felt her wolf before, weak but present, yet this power was different, older, rawer. It had exploded outward, fierce and merciless, while she herself had been frozen in terror. Her hand slid over her stomach, and she froze. Beneath her palm, something pulsed. Not just a kick, not just movement, a glow. Faint, silvery light seeped through her thin dress, circling her womb like moonlight caught in water. Karen gasped, stumbling back until her shoulders hit a tree trunk. No, oh moon goddess, no. The child wasn't ordinary. Whatever had saved her was inside that small, fragile body. Her tears blurred her vision. She didn't know if she should be grateful or terrified. The four seemed to lean in closer, every shadow watching. The glow under her skin dimmed, fading until only her pounding heart remained. Karen pressed both hands against her stomach and whispered, "What are you?" Her wolf's voice stirred faintly in her head. "Weak but steady, not what, Karen?" "Who?" "The child bears the mark." "The mark?" she whispered aloud. Her lips trembled. "No, that's impossible. Those stories are old lies. They said the marked child brings ruin, curses, death, or salvation," her wolf answered. "It depends on who holds them." Her breath hitched. Radolf can never know. The thought of him, his betrayal, his cruelty, cut deep enough to make her chest ache. If he had cast her aside, knowing she carried his child, what would he do if he learned that child was more than flesh and blood? He would use it, break it, claim power that didn't belong to him. "No," she whispered fiercely. "Over my dead body." She pushed herself away from the tree and kept moving, one arm wrapped protectively over her stomach. Each step was unsteady, but fear drove her forward. The cursed woods groaned around her, branches shifting, faint whispers riding the wind. The beast she had thrown back was gone, but that didn't mean it had fled. She could feel eyes on her, watching, waiting. Her wolf spoke again, voice faint with exhaustion. "You must find shelter before dawn." Karen laughed bitterly under her breath. "And where exactly? A cursed forest isn't known for warm beds and fires." Still, she searched. Her gaze swept through twisted trees, searching for anything that looked less threatening than the rest. Her body ached, but her thoughts circled back again and again. The glow, the pulse, the mark. Her child wasn't just hers. Her child carried something ancient, something dangerous. She stopped suddenly, clutching her stomach. Another faint pulse of light stirred under her skin, weaker this time, but undeniable. Tears welled in her eyes. She slid down against a tree, cradling herself, whispering to the life inside her. "You saved me. My little one, you protected me when I couldn't protect myself." Her voice broke. "But why you? Why would the moon curse an innocent?" Her wolf was silent. Karen bit her lip hard, choking back sobs. For a moment she imagined Rodolph's face if he ever saw the glow, how he would smile not out of love, but hunger. The thought made her sick. "I'll keep you safe," she swore, pressing her forehead to her knees. "No matter what I have to do. You'll never belong to him. Never." The night stretched on, endless and merciless. Karen forced herself up again, stumbling deeper into the woods. Her body wanted to collapse, but her fear wouldn't let her stop. Every crack of a branch, every whisper of wind set her nerves on fire. At times, she thought she saw movement in the distance, tall shadows, flickers of silver eyes, but when she blinked, they were gone. She didn't know that one pair of eyes never left her. High among the shadows, hidden in the deeper dark, Dylan stood. The Lycan King watched silently, his towering form cloaked in the night. His gaze followed every step she took, every tremble in her hands, every faint glow from her stomach. He had seen it, the surge of silver, the blast of ancient power. And now he knew. His lips curved into something between a smile and a grimace. His voice was a low murmur, rough and cold, but tinged with something like awe. So it begins again.
Chapter 4, Lycan King. Karen's heart wouldn't stop racing. She pressed her back against the rough bark, one arm wrapped tight across her stomach. The forest was too quiet, the kind of quiet that made her skin crawl. She had just whispered her vow to protect the life inside her when a new sound reached her, low growls, snapping twigs, heavy steps circling. She wasn't alone. From the shadows, 3 rogues emerged. Their eyes burned yellow, their bodies half-shifted, all fangs and claws. Scarred faces, twisted grins. Karen's knees nearly gave out. Her wolf stirred weakly, but she had nothing left to fight with. The glow inside her womb had faded, and fear crushed her chest. One of them sniffed the air and smirked. She reeks of weakness and something else. Another's gaze dropped to her stomach. She's carrying. Karen's breath hitched. She stepped back, voice breaking. Stay away from me. The tallest rogue laughed, low and cruel. Don't worry, little wolf. We won't hurt you, much. But the child, his grin widened. We'll see what it's worth. Her entire body shook. She pressed her hand protectively over her womb, trembling but defiant. You touch this child, and I'll do nothing. The rogue cut in, lunging. It happened in an instant. A blur of darkness struck from the trees. A force so violent it shattered the air. The rogue who had leapt for her was ripped sideways, his body thrown against a tree with a sickening crack. The forest shook with the sound of a growl, deeper, darker than anything she had ever heard. Karen froze. Her pulse stopped. From the shadows, he stepped forward, tall, broad-shouldered, with eyes burning gold under the moonlight. His presence was overwhelming, his aura crashing into her like a storm. Power clung to him, ancient and merciless. The Lycan King, Dylan. Her breath left her in a shaky rush. The other two rogues stumbled back, fear flashing across their faces. One tried to bolt. Dylan didn't even move fast. He simply blurred, appearing in front of the rogue before the creature could take another step. With one swift movement, Dylan's hand closed around the rogue's throat. A single squeeze, and the sound of bone snapping echoed through the woods. Karen flinched, a small cry escaping her lips. The last rogue dropped to his knees, shaking. Mercy, my king. I didn't know. Dylan's golden eyes glowed hotter. His voice was low, cold, absolute. You dared to breathe her scent. You dared to speak of her child. The rogue's body convulsed before Dylan even touched him. His aura alone crushed the air, forcing the creature's chest to cave, choking the life from him. Karen covered her mouth, eyes wide. She couldn't breathe. The raw weight of his power pressed down on her, terrifying, suffocating. The forest was silent again, except for the sound of her racing heart. Dylan finally turned to her. For a moment, Karen forgot how to move, how to exist. His eyes locked on her, burning through her soul. She wanted to run, but her body wouldn't obey. Her lips parted, a whisper slipping out. Why are you here? He stepped closer. His presence swallowed the space between them, making her shrink back against the tree. His gaze flicked to her stomach. Karen froze, clutching it tighter. No, she breathed. Don't look at me like that. Dylan's jaw tightened, but his voice was steady. I felt it. The surge. The mark. Her blood ran cold. You think you can hide it, he said, his tone sharper now. That child carries something older than both of us. Something the world hasn't seen in centuries. Karen shook her head, tears spilling. It's just a child. My child. Nothing else. His expression didn't soften. His aura pressed harder, making her chest ache. No, Karen. That heartbeat carries prophecy. Her throat tightened. Prophecy. Dylan's eyes never left her. A child born under the blood moon, carrying the moon's mark, will decide the fate of kingdoms. Her knees buckled, and she slid down against the tree, gasping for air. No, that can't be true. It's a curse. A myth. Dylan crouched before her, his massive frame blocking out everything else. His hand lifted, not to touch her, but close enough that the heat of him brushed her cheek. It is no myth, he said quietly, almost like a vow. I've waited lifetimes to feel that aura again. Karen's chest heaved. Her mind screamed at her to run, but her body was trapped under his gaze. Why me, she whispered. Her voice cracked. Why my child? For the first time, something unreadable flickered in Dylan's expression. Pain, memory, longing. Then it was gone, replaced by the sharp steel of his will. Because fate has chosen you. Her tears fell harder now. I don't want fate. I just want to keep my baby safe. Dylan's golden eyes burned. His voice dropped lower, rougher. Safe? You think you can keep it safe from this world? From Radolf? From the packs, who will smell power in its blood. Her heart clenched at Rodolph's name. She shook her head violently. I don't care what they want. He's mine. I'll protect him. Dylan leaned closer. She could feel his breath on her skin, warm and dangerous. You can't even protect yourself. The words cut deep, too true. She bit her lip until it bled, refusing to break under his stare. For a long moment, silence stretched. The night air held its breath. Then Dylan spoke the words that shattered everything. That child will decide the fate of kingdoms. His hand hovered over her stomach, power radiating from him. And you, Karen, are mine.
Chapter 5, Child of Prophecy. Karen's whole body shook as Dylan's words echoed in her head. That child will decide the fate of kingdoms, and you, Karen, are mine. She didn't remember how long she sat frozen under the weight of his claim. When she finally found her voice, it came out as a broken whisper. You can't take me. I won't go with you. Dylan's golden eyes burned with a quiet certainty that made her stomach twist. You don't have a choice. And with that, the world shifted. By dawn, Karen found herself riding within the king's escort. Dark-armored Lycans surrounded them, their presence more suffocating than reassuring. The forest gave way to cliffs, then wide valleys, until finally stone towers cut against the sky. The Lycan King's stronghold. It was nothing like Rodolph's packed lands. This wasn't a home, it was a fortress. High walls, banners of black and crimson snapping in the wind, soldiers lining the gates with cold, watchful eyes. Karen's chest tightened. She had fled one cage, only to step into another. Inside the castle, whispers followed her. Servants lowered their heads when Dylan passed, but she caught their stolen glances, their muttered words. The king brings a she-wolf? She carries a child. Does he mean to claim her? One voice cut sharper than the rest, but the king is cursed. He'll never have a true mate. Karen's breath caught. She looked to Dylan, but his expression didn't flicker. He strode forward like he hadn't heard, his aura silencing the hall with every step. Still, the words burrowed deep inside her. Cursed, never a mate. That night, Dylan summoned her to his private chamber. The room was massive, all stone walls and burning torches, but it wasn't warmth she felt, it was danger. He stood near the balcony, the moonlight washing over his broad frame. You're safe here, he said, his voice firm, final. Karen laughed bitterly. Safe? I'm surrounded by your soldiers, trapped behind your walls. That's not safety, Dylan, that's a prison. His head snapped toward her, eyes narrowing. Would you rather Rattle find you? Tear the child from your womb and use it for his own war. Her throat burned. She hated him for being right. Still, she lifted her chin. Maybe I don't trust you either. For the first time, a crack appeared in his armor. His jaw clenched, his eyes flickering with something raw. Pain, anger, hunger. Trust is irrelevant, he said lowly. What matters is survival. And I'm the only one who can give it to you. She stepped closer despite herself, her voice trembling. Why me? Out of every wolf in your kingdom, why me? He didn't answer right away. His gaze lingered on her face, then fell to her lips, then lower still, to the hand she had wrapped protectively around her stomach. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough. Because fate doesn't ask permission. Karen's breath caught. For a moment, the air between them crackled. The room shrank to nothing but the space where their bodies almost touched. Her chest rose and fell sharply. She hated him. She feared him. And yet, her heart pounded in a rhythm that betrayed her. You don't scare me, she whispered, though her voice shook. Dylan moved in a flash, one hand braced against the wall beside her head, his face so close she could feel the heat of his breath. You should be terrified, he growled. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. She swore the ground shifted beneath her as his golden eyes darkened, pulling her into their fire. For a heartbeat, she thought he would kiss her. His gaze dropped to her mouth, his breathing ragged, his body taut as if fighting something inside himself. Her pulse thundered. She didn't move, couldn't move. Then, With a violent jerk, Dylan tore himself back. His hand slammed against the wall, leaving cracks in the stone. He turned away, shoulders rigid, his breath heavy. Karen pressed her hand over her chest, trembling. "What?" she gasped, voice breaking. "What are you fighting?" Dylan didn't turn. His voice came low, ragged, dangerous. "You don't want the answer to that." And before she could speak again, he was gone, leaving her standing in the king's chamber, heart torn between fear and something far more dangerous.
Chapter 6, Secrets. Karen's heart was still racing from the moment Dylan had almost kissed her. She could still feel the ghost of his breath against her skin. But instead of giving in, he had torn himself away, like something inside him was breaking. She barely slept that night, her thoughts spiraling. Was he cursed? Was that why he'd pulled back? Or was she simply unwanted, another pawn trapped in his castle walls? By morning, the questions burned hotter than ever. The next day, Dylan summoned her again. His voice had been flat, leaving no room for refusal. "We need to speak." She followed him through stone halls until they reached a smaller chamber, far from the noise of the court. Unlike the throne room or his chambers, this place felt private. The firelight flickered across shelves of old scrolls and weathered books. Karen crossed her arms. "If this is another speech about my safety, don't bother." Dylan turned, his golden eyes heavy with something different this time. Not command, but restraint. "This isn't about safety," he said. "It's about truth." She frowned. "Truth. You think you're an Omega," he said slowly. "You've lived your whole life being treated as one. Weak, worthless, invisible." Her throat tightened. "Because that's what I am." No, his voice cut through the air like a blade. He stepped closer, his gaze sharp and unyielding. "You are not Omega. Not even close." Karen shook her head, a bitter laugh escaping. "Don't toy with me. I know what I am." "You know what you were told," Dylan countered. "What you were forced to believe. But blood doesn't lie." Her pulse raced. "What are you saying?" He studied her like he was weighing every word. Finally, he spoke low, almost reverent. "Your bloodline traces back to the seer daughters of the first moon goddess. Women born with the gift to see what others cannot, to feel what others fear. They were thought to be extinct, hunted out of existence centuries ago." Karen's breath hitched. "That's impossible." "Is it?" Dylan's eyes burned brighter. "Tell me why Radolf wanted you so desperately. Why your unborn child's aura hums with power even my warriors can sense. Do you think that's normal?" Her knees nearly buckled. She reached for the edge of the table, gripping it hard. No, I can't." "You can," Dylan interrupted. His voice softened just slightly. "The truth frightens you because it shatters the chains you've worn your whole life. You are not powerless, Karen. You never were." Her eyes stung. Anger and grief tangled inside her chest. "So I'm supposed to believe I'm some prophecy child? That everything I've suffered, every beating, every humiliation, was just because I was hiding this?" Dylan's jaw tightened. "Because others feared what you could become." She looked up at him then, her vision blurred with tears. "And what am I supposed to become, Dylan? Your weapon? Your queen? Another tool to use in your endless war?" For a long moment, he didn't answer. The fire crackled, filling the silence. Then, quietly, he said, "You were never meant to be a weapon. You were meant to change everything." Karen's heart twisted. She hated how his words made something inside her stir. Hope, fear, something she couldn't name. She wanted to scream at him, to run, but her body betrayed her. Dylan stepped closer, his hand lifting like he wanted to touch her face, then stopping midair. "I can feel it when you breathe," he murmured. "The power in you. The power in your child. The moon goddess doesn't make mistakes, Karen. She chose you." Her lips trembled. "And if I don't want to be chosen?" His eyes darkened. "Then the world will choose for you." Before she could answer, the door creaked open. A servant stepped in, carrying a tray. "My king, refreshments." Dylan gave a sharp nod, and the servant set the tray down before retreating quickly, head bowed. Karen's throat was dry. She reached for the goblet of water, eager for something to steady her shaking hands. Dylan was still watching her, unreadable, when she lifted it to her lips. The first sip was cool. The second burned. Her stomach clenched violently. The goblet slipped from her fingers, crashing to the floor. Karen. Dylan's roar shook the chamber. She gasped, clutching her stomach, her knees buckling as pain ripped through her body. Her hands flew instinctively to her belly, terror seizing her heart. No, the baby. Her voice broke as tears blurred her vision. Dylan was at her side in an instant, his arms catching her before she hit the stone floor. His fury was a living thing, vibrating off him in waves. Poison, he growled, eyes flashing. Someone dares touch what's mine? Her body trembled in his arms, every muscle screaming. Dylan, it hurts. I know, he said fiercely, cradling her against him. His voice was raw, his control snapping. Stay with me. Don't you dare leave me, Karen. Her breath came in shallow gasps. She could barely focus, the edges of her vision going black. But even through the haze of pain, one thought cut clear. There was a traitor in Dylan's court, and they wanted her dead.
Chapter 7, Betrayal. Karen woke to the sound of her own ragged breathing. Her body felt heavy, her lips dry, her chest burning as if fire still lingered in her veins. The last thing she remembered was Dylan's arms around her and the taste of poison tearing through her throat. Now, she lay in a wide bed draped with wolf fur blankets, the scent of herbs thick in the air. She's alive. The thought struck her before relief could even settle. Then fear followed. And so was the child. Her trembling hand flew to her stomach. The pulse of life beat faintly beneath her touch. Her eyes stung with tears. You scare me half to death. Karen turned her head. Dylan was seated by the fire, his posture stiff, his eyes shadowed. But his voice, low, rough, carried something raw she had never heard from him before. She tried to speak, but her throat ached. The baby. Dylan was beside her in 2 strides, kneeling at her side. Still fighting, he whispered. Like you. Her chest tightened. She wanted to hate his closeness, to push him away. But when his hand brushed against hers, she didn't move. You were poisoned, he said, his voice edged with fury. In my court. Under my watch. I should have seen it. Her brows knit weakly. Who would? That's what I'll find out, he growled, eyes flashing. And when I do, there will be no mercy. Karen looked away, her throat tight. For a long moment, silence stretched, filled only by the crackle of the fire. Then Dylan exhaled, his control slipping. There's more, he said. Her stomach dropped. More. He hesitated, then locked eyes with her. Radolf has declared war. Her blood turned cold. What? Her voice cracked. Dylan's jaw clenched. His message came at dawn. He claims you and the child are his by right. He swore to burn my kingdom to ash if I don't hand you over. Karen's chest ached. She thought she had no tears left, but they came anyway, hot and bitter. Radolf, the man who had once held her heart, the man who had shattered it. She forced a laugh that sounded like breaking glass. By right? After what he did to me. He's desperate, Dylan said darkly. And desperate men are dangerous. Karen pressed her hand to her mouth, her body shaking. She hated herself for it, but some part of her chest still pulled when she thought of Radolf, the promises, the touches, the lies. She had given him everything, and he had betrayed her in the cruelest way. And yet, why did it still hurt? Dylan's gaze didn't leave her. Does part of you still want him? Her head snapped up. His voice wasn't angry, just blunt, sharp as a blade. Her lips trembled. I don't know what I want. He leaned closer, his golden eyes burning through her. Then I'll make it simple. He wants to own you. I want to protect you. Her breath caught. His nearness, the raw hunger in his eyes, it was too much. And if I don't want either? Dylan's jaw flexed. For a moment, he didn't answer. Then, quietly, you'll still have me standing in front of you. even if you hate me for it. The fire crackled between them. She should have pushed him away. She should have said something cruel to remind him that she didn't trust him, that she didn't need him. But when his hand lingered near hers, she didn't move. She felt the heat of him, the strength, the danger, and something inside her, something shameful, wanted more. Her heart betrayed her with a single thought. What would it feel like if he kissed me and didn't pull away this time? The door creaked open, breaking the spell. One of Dylan's advisors entered, his face pale. "My king," he said quickly, bowing. "News from the border. Rodolph's Luna. She's been seen meeting with strangers at the edge of the dark woods. Not wolves. Something older." Dylan straightened, his entire body stiff. "Older." The advisor nodded nervously. "Whispers say she's consorting with the ones who were banished. The ancient dark forces." Karen's heart slammed against her ribs. Serena, the woman who had smirked at her suffering, the one who had watched silently as Radolf broke her. Dylan's voice was lethal. "Serena dares to bring that corruption here?" The advisor's voice trembled. "She was overheard, my king. She spoke of a plan. She wants the seer's child dead before it's born." Karen froze. Her blood turned ice. The child. Her hand instinctively went to her stomach. The air in the room grew heavy as Dylan's fury shook the space. "Serena," he snarled, the name a curse on his tongue. Karen's lips parted, her body trembling as the truth struck her. It wasn't just Radolf who wanted her back. His Luna, cold, beautiful, merciless, was willing to conspire with forces older than the packs themselves. Not to steal her, not to claim her, but to kill her. And the child.
Chapter 8, The Bond. Karen couldn't breathe. Serena's name still echoed in her mind, the horror of the advisor's words clinging like smoke. She wants the child dead. The firelight in Dylan's chamber flickered across his face, hard and unforgiving, but beneath his fury she saw something else, a shadow of fear he couldn't hide. The night before, Karen learned Rodolph's Luna, Serena, had allied with ancient dark forces. Now, her every breath felt like borrowed time. "I won't let her touch you," Dylan said. His voice was a vow, low and sharp, but his eyes betrayed the storm inside him. Karen's lips trembled. "You can't promise that. Not against her. Not against whatever she's calling to." He stepped closer, his towering frame lit by firelight. "I can, and I will." For a moment, neither moved. The air between them was heavy with words unsaid, with everything she feared to admit. She wanted to hate him. She wanted to scream that he was just another alpha trying to control her life. But when his hand brushed against hers, her body betrayed her, burning with a need she couldn't smother. That night, sleep did not come gently. Karen tossed on the fur-draped bed, her body weak but her mind restless. And then the dream took her. She stood in a forest bathed in silver moonlight. The trees glowed, alive with shadows of wolves moving between them. At the center stood two figures, wolves larger than any she had ever seen. One was pure white, her coat glowing, eyes like shards of crystal. The other was black and gold, taller, darker, eyes burning like fire. Karen's breath caught. She knew them. Her wolf, his wolf, bound together, circling, colliding like fire and snow. But there was something chained around them, invisible yet unbreakable. Every time they touched, light sparked between them, but the bond twisted, strangled by shadows. A voice whispered from the trees, "The Lycan King's mate will bring either salvation or ruin." Karen jolted awake, sweat damp on her brow. Her chest heaved as she pressed a trembling hand to her stomach. The prophecy. She had heard whispers of it before, but never had it felt so close, so suffocating. The door creaked. Dylan stood in the doorway, shadows clinging to him like a second skin. His shirt was undone at the throat, his expression unreadable. "You dreamed it too," he said quietly. Karen froze. "What?" He stepped closer, eyes locked on hers. "The bond. Our wolves. The prophecy." Her lips parted, her pulse racing. How could you know? Because I see it every time I close my eyes. His jaw tightened. Every night I dream of you. Not as you are now. As her. My wolf's mate. Karen's throat closed. He said it without hesitation, without shame. Her wolf's mate. The words should have filled her with warmth, but instead they tangled with fear. Then why, she whispered, do you resist it? His gaze darkened. Because I know what it means. He turned from her, fists clenched at his sides. My father believed it. The prophecy. He said the Lycan King's mate would either save our kind or destroy us all. And I watched him tear our kingdom apart, trying to prevent it. I swore I wouldn't make his mistakes. Karen's chest ached. You think I'll ruin you? I think, Dylan said, finally looking at her again, that fate is cruel. And if I claim you, if I give in, I won't survive what comes after. Silence hung between them, heavy and sharp. Finally, Karen stood on trembling legs, her body still weak, but her voice steady. You think you're protecting yourself, Dylan. But what about me? What about the child? Do you think resisting fate will keep us safe? His eyes softened at her words, but only for a moment. He took a step closer, then another, until he was only inches away. I don't care about fate, he growled. I care about you. Her breath caught. His words were rough, torn from a man who had spent too long fighting against what he wanted. And she, damn her, she wanted him too. Her hand lifted without thought, brushing against his chest. She felt the steady beat of his heart beneath her fingertips, strong and wild. His breath hitched. Their lips hovered close, too close. His eyes searched hers as if begging for permission. Dylan, she whispered. But the moment shattered with a sound that shook the walls. A roar, low, guttural, and human. Karen stumbled back as Dylan's body tensed. His eyes flashed gold, then black, then gold again. His chest heaved, his muscles trembling under his skin. No, he hissed, staggering. Not now. Karen's stomach dropped. What's happening? He backed away from her, clutching his head. My wolf, ease. His words broke off into a snarl. Before her eyes, his body began to shift. Not the smooth transformation she had seen before, but violent, jagged, torn from him like a wound. Bones cracked, skin stretched, claws split through his hands. Karen's heart pounded as she pressed herself against the wall. Dylan. His head snapped up. His eyes glowed with a feral light, unrecognizable. His teeth bared in a snarl. He wasn't Dylan anymore. He was the Lycan King, unchained. And his gaze was fixed on her. Fight it, she cried, her voice breaking. It's me, Dylan, it's Karen. But the beast lunged, claws tearing through wood as he slammed into the wall inches from her. The force shook the chamber, dust falling from the rafters. Karen's scream caught in her throat as she stumbled, her hand instinctively flying to her stomach. The Lycan's breath was hot against her skin, his growl vibrating through her bones. For one terrifying heartbeat, she thought he would tear her apart.
Chapter 9, War of Alphas. Blood thundered in Karen's ears. Dylan's golden eyes had burned into her only moments before, the beast inside him snapping free, his claws grazing the air where her throat had been. And then the world exploded. Dylan lost control of his Lycan form, nearly killing Karen as his pack prepared for war against Radolf. The alarm bells rang across the castle grounds, howls carrying through the night. The stone walls shook beneath the weight of war drums. Outside, Radolf's army poured in from the forest, their shadows endless under the blood-red moon. Karen staggered back as Dylan's guards rushed in. Two of them threw chains across his massive body, silver links searing into his skin. Dylan roared, fighting, his Lycan form snapping the air like a wild storm. Get him out of here, one shouted. The king can't control himself. Karen's heart wrenched as Dylan's blazing eyes met hers one last time before he was dragged into the darkness. She wanted to scream, to run after him, but another sound filled the air. War cries from outside the gates. Radolf, she whispered, clutching her stomach. The attack came like lightning. Rodolph's wolves scaled the walls, their eyes glowing with bloodlust. Steel clashed with claws, arrows cut the night sky. Dylan's men fought with a fury, but Rodolph's army was endless, fueled by something darker than loyalty. Karen stumbled through the corridors, searching for safety, when the air grew colder. She turned and froze. Radolf stood at the end of the hall. His armor gleamed black, his face a mask of calm power. His eyes, however, were not calm. They were hungry. Karen, he said smoothly, his voice cutting through the chaos. You should not be here. Her knees weakened. Stay away from me. His smile was thin. I warned you, didn't I? That Dylan could never protect you. And now you see for yourself. He nearly killed you with his own hands. Don't, she snapped, her voice trembling. Don't twist this. But he was already moving closer. I don't have to twist anything. You saw the monster yourself. You felt his claws. Her back hit the wall. She wanted to shift, to run, but her body was too weak, her child weighing her down. Rodolph's hand shot out, gripping her wrist with iron strength. You're coming with me. No, she cried, struggling, but his men appeared from the smoke, surrounding her. One pressed a rag to her face, the stench of herbs choking her breath. The world tilted, dimmed, and she felt herself falling. When Karen woke, the air was thick and damp. Stone walls rose around her, dripping with moss. She knew this place, Rodolph's stronghold. Her stomach churned as she pressed a hand to her belly. The child stirred inside her alive. Relief flooded her for one breath before despair followed. The door creaked open and Radolf entered. No longer armored, he moved with the calm assurance of a man who believed he had already won. You've taken me before, she said hoarsely. But this isn't about me anymore, is it? Radolf studied her with a predator's patience. You're clever. That's why I wanted you. Her skin crawled. Wanted me? You never loved me. His silence was answer enough, but then he spoke, his words sharp and cold. Love? No. What I want is power. And the child you carry will give me more power than any alpha before me. Karen's stomach turned. It's a child, not a weapon. He leaned closer, his breath hot against her ear. You think I don't know what it is? Prophecies don't lie. That child will decide the fate of every pack. And I intend to make sure it serves me. She jerked away, fury burning through her fear. You'll never have him. Or her. Dylan won't let you. At the mention of Dylan's name, Rodolph's expression darkened. His hand clamped around her chin, forcing her to look at him. Dylan is weak, he hissed. He hides behind prophecy and fear. But me, I will carve my destiny with my own hands. Karen spat the words at him, voice raw. You're a coward. You can't win by your own strength, so you use an unborn child. For a moment, she thought he might strike her. But instead, he smiled again, cold and merciless. You're right, which is why I've prepared something stronger. That night, the stronghold shook with chanting. Karen was dragged from her cell, chains digging into her wrists. The ritual chamber was lit with fire and symbols scrawled in blood across the stone. Wolves in dark robes circled, their voices rising in unholy rhythm. At the center stood an altar. Radolf motioned, and they forced her onto it. Karen's breath came in ragged gasps. You can't do this. Rodolph's hand pressed against her stomach, almost reverent. Oh, I can. Tonight, under the blood moon, the child will be bound to me. Its power will be mine. Her chest heaved, her nails digging into the stone. You're insane. Insane. His eyes blazed. Or chosen. But before she could scream again, pain tore through her. Sharp, merciless, splitting her body in two. Her eyes widened in horror. No, she gasped, clutching her stomach. Rodolph's smile widened, triumphant. Yes, it seems the child doesn't wish to wait. Another wave of pain ripped through her, her cries echoing off the stone walls. Karen's vision blurred as she clutched the altar. She could barely breathe. barely think, but one truth cut through the agony. Her child was coming, and Radolf was ready to claim it with blood.
Chapter 10. The Lycan King's Claim. Karen's scream ripped through the chamber, echoing off the stone walls. Her body convulsed with another contraction, the altar cold beneath her trembling frame. And still, Radolf didn't stop. Karen was taken to Radolf's stronghold, where he revealed his true aim, the child's power. She went into labor as he prepared his dark ritual. Hold her down. Radolf barked, his voice sharp, cruel. His men pressed her wrists against the altar, their claws cutting into her skin. Karen's vision blurred with sweat and tears. Every part of her burned. She tried to twist away, but the chains bit into her flesh. Radolf leaned over her, his lips brushing her ear. Once I mark you again, no one, not even Dylan, will be able to take you back. Her voice cracked. You'll never own me. He smirked. You were mine once, Karen, and tonight you will be mine again. He bent lower, his teeth grazing the soft curve of her neck, right where Dylan's mark burned faintly beneath her skin. The wolves around them chanted louder, their voices pounding in rhythm with her screams. The air grew thick, suffocating, alive with dark power. Outside, the stronghold shook. A roar split the night, so deep, so violent, it silenced even the chanting. The ground trembled under heavy footsteps. Steel clattered. Bones snapped. Wolves howled in agony. And then he appeared. Dylan. Not the man, not even the alpha, but the full, unleashed Lycan King. His massive form tore through the gates, his claws dripping with blood. His golden eyes burned with one thought, one truth. Karen. Nothing and no one would stand in his way. He ripped through Radolf's soldiers like paper, bodies flung aside with every strike. Arrows pierced his skin, swords sliced, but he didn't falter. Pain only fueled his rage. He was death itself, moving with one purpose, reaching her. Inside the ritual chamber, Radolf froze. The altar shook as the doors exploded inward. Stone shattered. Fire rained from the torches. And there he was, Dylan, towering, snarling, his body covered in blood that wasn't his. Karen's heart leapt. Dylan. Her voice cut through the storm, grounding him for a single breath. His blazing eyes locked on her chained body, her swollen belly, her trembling hands reaching for him. Radolf snarled, shoving her head back. Stay down. He turned, facing Dylan with a twisted grin. So, the beast came after all. Dylan's growl shook the chamber. His words rolled out low, guttural, but clear. She was never yours. Radolf bared his teeth. She wore my mark first. She carried my scent. She belonged to me before she ever looked at you. Karen cried out as another contraction tore through her. Her nails scraped the altar, her screams echoing. Dylan stepped forward, fury flashing in his eyes. You forced her. You broke her. That's not love. That's chains. Radolf lunged, claws raised, aiming for Dylan's throat. The clash was thunder. Claw met claw. Teeth snapped. Growls filled the air. Wolves scattered from the ritual circle as the two alphas collided with the force of titans. Karen sobbed, torn between agony and fear as she watched them fight, her body trembling with the child's coming. Radolf slammed Dylan into the altar, inches from her face. His claws pressed against Dylan's chest. She will never choose you, he roared. Dylan bared his fangs, his voice raw with truth. She already has. With a surge of strength, Dylan threw Radolf across the chamber. The stone cracked as Radolf hit the wall, blood spraying from his mouth. Dylan turned, his chest heaving. His eyes locked on Karen again, her pain, her tears, her strength even as she fought through the birth. He moved to her, breaking the chains with one swipe. She fell into his arms, sobbing against his chest. Dylan, she gasped, clutching him. He tried to. He was going to mark me. Dylan pressed his forehead to hers, his voice shaking. No one touches you. Not while I breathe. Radolf staggered back to his feet, his laugh broken and bitter. You think you won? That child belongs to me. If I cannot have Karen, I'll rip the babe from her womb myself. Karen screamed as another wave of pain split her open, her body giving way to the birth. Dylan stood over her, his massive form shielding her from Rodolph's madness. His voice thundered across the chamber, silencing every wolf present. She was never yours. She is mine, by blood, by bond, by destiny. The words carried power, ancient, undeniable. The bond flared between him and Karen, brighter than fire, stronger than prophecy. Radolf charged one last time. Dylan didn't hesitate. His jaws clamped down on Rodolph's throat, crushing bone, tearing flesh. The rival alpha gurgled, eyes wide, before collapsing in a pool of blood. The chamber went still. Karen's sobs echoed as she clutched Dylan's hand, her body writhing with the final push. And then silence broke with the sound of a newborn's cry. A tiny wail filled the air, raw and alive. Karen collapsed back, tears streaming, her body shaking with relief. Dylan reached, his massive claws trembling as he lifted the child gently into her arms. Karen looked at him, weak but smiling, her voice barely a whisper. Our child. Dylan's chest swelled, his golden eyes softening as he leaned down, pressing his lips to Karen's neck. The mark burned, alive, binding, eternal. In front of every wolf present, Dylan claimed her again, not as conquest, not as dominance, but as truth. His true mate, his Luna. Karen gasped as warmth spread through her body, her bond with him complete at last. But in the shadows, someone moved. Serena. Her cloak swept behind her as she slipped from the chamber, clutching a torn fragment of parchment. Her lips curved in a secret smile. The prophecy wasn't lost. She carried a piece of it still, and with it, another war waiting to be born.
Epilogue. The baby's cry still echoed in Karen's chest long after the chamber had fallen silent. Dylan killed Radolf and marked Karen as his true mate before their child was born. Yet Serena fled with a piece of the prophecy. Now, days later, the battlefield was quiet. The blood had dried. The pack had gathered under the silver light of the full moon. Karen stood at Dylan's side, their child cradled in her arms. She wore white, not the pale gown of a prisoner, but the flowing robe of a Luna, soft fur trimming the edges, her hair braided with moonlit threads. For the first time, she wasn't trembling. She wasn't chained. She was seen. The circle of wolves bent low in reverence. Torches burned, casting shadows across their bowed heads. The wind carried the scent of pine and ash, the reminder of everything they had lost and everything they had survived. Dylan's hand rested firmly at Karen's back, grounding her. His voice rose over the crowd, deep and commanding. Tonight, he said, we stand not as broken clans, not as rivals, but as one. Tonight, we welcome our future. He turned his golden eyes toward the infant in Karen's arms. His face softened, though his voice never lost its steel. The son of the Lycan King and his Luna. Born of fire, born of blood. Chosen by the moon. Karen's throat tightened. She looked down at the baby, his tiny fingers curling around the fabric of her robe. He was perfect, fragile yet fierce, his dark lashes brushing against pale cheeks. She kissed his forehead, whispering, "You'll never know chains. Not while I live." A hush swept through the pack as the elders stepped forward. The old wolf's robes brushed the ground, his staff glowing faintly in the moonlight. He lifted his hands, his voice steady. By the moon's blessing, we welcome this child into the bloodline of kings. May his path be guided, his heart be strong, his bond unbroken. The elder dipped his thumb in silver ash, pressing a mark onto the baby's brow. The child stirred, a small cry breaking the silence before Dylan's hand closed gently around him, calming him instantly. Karen couldn't help but smile through her tears. She reached for Dylan's hand, gripping it tight. He looked down at her, eyes soft in a way only she ever saw. "You're safe now," Dylan whispered. "No one will ever cast you aside again." Karen swallowed. her chest aching with relief and love. You mean it? I swear it. He pressed his forehead to hers, low enough for only her to hear. You're mine. Always. Forever. The pack howled as the moon reached its highest point. Wolves shifted, their cries rising in unison, shaking the forest, calling the night itself to bear witness. Karen's heart swelled. For the first time in so long, she wasn't hiding her scars. She wasn't begging for belonging. She was Luna. She was queen. And yet, as the howls echoed, Karen caught the flicker of shadow at the tree line. For a second, her chest tightened. She swore she saw Serena's cloak slip between the pines, carrying secrets, carrying danger. But when she blinked, the figure was gone. A chill rippled through her. Later, when the crowd had dispersed and the fire burned low, Karen sat on the steps of the throne beside Dylan. Their son lay between them, wrapped in furs, sleeping soundly. The silence was thick, almost too peaceful. Dylan's arm draped over her shoulders, his thumb brushing against her collarbone absent-mindedly. Karen stared at the flames. Do you ever wonder, she said softly, what he'll become? Dylan's gaze flicked to their son. He'll be strong. He'll be just. But will he be safe? Her voice cracked, betraying the fear clawing at her chest. Dylan turned her face toward him, his eyes burning with certainty. I'll protect him. The pack will protect him. He is ours, Karen. She nodded, but her heart didn't settle. A whisper from the prophecy haunted her. The words Radolf had nearly spoken before Dylan silenced him. Born of blood, born of fire. He will walk in light or shadow. He will choose. The fire popped, sending sparks into the night. Karen brushed her fingers against her son's tiny hand. His skin was warm, soft, trusting. She kissed his knuckles, whispering, Don't ever leave me. Dylan leaned closer, his voice low, almost a vow. He won't. Neither will I. She closed her eyes, letting herself believe it, if only for now. Above them, the moon glowed silver, bright and unyielding. The pack's howls had faded, but the night itself seemed to hold its breath. Somewhere beyond the tree-line, beyond the reach of safety, shadows stirred. Serena's laughter whispered faintly in the wind, carrying the fragment of prophecy closer to the ears who would twist it. Karen held her child tighter, her heart caught between joy and fear. He was her everything, her second chance, her redemption. But the prophecy still lived. And when the time came, her son would have to choose between light and darkness. But whose side will he choose? Thank you for staying with Karen and Dylan's story all the way to the end. Now I want to hear from you. Whose side do you think their child will choose when the time comes? Will he walk in the light beside Dylan and Karen, or fall into the shadows that still wait for him? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm reading every single one. And tell me, are you team light or team darkness?